Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me for tonight's Omega Insight. The topic that we're going to discuss tonight is go directly to jail. Now, this is from a workshop that George did back in 1997. It was 8 pages long, so I've kind of scoured through and just highlighted some of the points that I thought would be really important for us. The philosophy behind this idea actually has been carried through some of the Omega programs that we do, some of the teachings that we talk about. Overall, the concept is that human beings, at least every human being, at some time or another in their life, they've been imprisoned. Now, of course, I'm not talking about the bars and the steel doors and whatnot, I'm talking about a different kind of imprisonment. Now, this imprisonment happens to us at a very early age. It can start by the way we look out at the world and who's instructing us. So our parents naturally they want to take care of us and tell us what to do. And so they think for us and they speak for us and tell us how to act, where to go, what to eat. And then this moves over to our teachers, that our teachers are doing the same thing. They're instructing us and educating us. And of course, that's fine. That's naturally what we need to have. The problem occurs when our friends, family, loved ones continue to take on the role of teaching us when we're an adult and we have our own voice. And they get upset, whether it's your family, your parents, your spouse, your children, coworkers, your boss, often get frustrated and show signs of disappointment because we're not following them. The idea is our imprisonment is because we're not allowed to speak up anymore. We have to say what somebody else wants us to say and do what somebody else wants us to do. And we begin to form habits. And before we know it, we don't even think about it anymore. It's just, this is just what we do. There's a story I used to love to tell in the classroom. Um, a daughter was baking a ham and she cut the ham and put it, she's teaching her daughter, cut the ham in half and put it in a smaller pan. And the child said, Mom, why are you putting it in two separate pans? Does it taste better or anything? And the mom's like, this is the way my mom taught me. I know there was a reason for it, but I can't remember what. So they go to her mom and the mother says, well, that's what my mother taught me. And fortunately enough, it was 4 generations. The grandmother was still, the great grandmother to the daughter was still alive. They go to her and they ask her, how come we cut the ham in half? And she said, oh, that's just because I didn't have a big enough pan. So what ends up, that's a good example of habit. We just pass it on, pass it on, pass it on, and don't even realize we can question it and do something different. So that's what imprisonment means on a small scale. That idea that I'm imprisoned by somebody else's thinking. This could be government. Again, it could be family, work environment. There's many arenas where we are imprisoned by what somebody else's thoughts are. Now, some of us are very comfortable in these imprisonments. We like not having to think for ourselves. I know that's a harsh statement, but I've been in the industry of executive leadership training for quite some time, over 20 years. And there are quite a number of people that I have worked with as a coach who don't want to become a leader because they don't want the responsibility. They don't want to be the one making the choices. They don't want to be the ones who make the decisions. So, yeah, there are some of us who say, let somebody else do it. I don't want to get involved. And that's okay. I'm not making that wrong. However, for those of us who want to improve our lives, we want to have our voices heard and express ourselves, then those are the ones I'm speaking to. To break free from our prisons is not a very easy thing because we have habits and it's a natural instinct to just default that way. We have to start taking risks and doing things differently. I love the idea of challenging our thinking in life, we look out at the world, we see how things are, and we formulate, oh, this is the way it is. And we put that little footnote in our head. That's how this is. And then we hear what people say. We formulate the footnote, put in our head, that's how it is. So our thinking is derived by what we see and what we hear. Therefore, if I wish to start thinking differently, then I have to start seeing things differently and hearing things differently. And this is where the struggle lies because most of us don't want to let go of our point of view. I'm right. And we don't want to let go of our point of view. But truly, in order for us to expand, we have to be able to start seeing other points of view. Have to is a word that I don't like to use too often. In order for me to expand my capacity and my thinking, it would be very beneficial for me to start listening to other people's points of view. We've had a great opportunity the last 2 years politically. We've had that. And now with the CDC and COVID, we have great opportunities to hear other points of view. And I've spoken about this already when we in, instill our emotions into that point of view, it makes it difficult because now we're going emotional instead of logical. We want to be able to remove our emotions from it and see it from a perspective, an observer's point of view. Oh, I see how that works. We don't have to take it on, but we can say, oh, yeah, I recognize that. This is where the concept is I can agree to disagree. I don't have to be emotional. I could just agree to disagree. So the prisons that we're in, here's a rule of thumb to see if you think that you're in prison. The rule of thumb is if you think and feel the pressure from in that you're feeling is coming from outside of you, you're imprisoned. If you are alleviated or if you feel like you're going to be alleviated from the pressure by adjusting outside events and your schedules of your life, you're imprisoned. A lot of the pressure that we feel from other people is an indication, other people, other events, other places, is an indication of our prisons. The other thing is, if you feel like that you're dissatisfied and that people are dissatisfied with you, you're in prison. Um, Blaming is another one. Like if you're being blamed and or you're blaming other people for your lack of satisfaction, lack of success, lack of happiness, you are imprisoned. Of course, we all know it starts from within, personal responsibility, self-knowledge. This is one of the basic fundamental concepts that we speak about in Omega. I am responsible for me. I'm responsible for my own actions. I'm also responsible for my voice and speaking up in my voice. So, um, there's a couple of things that we have to be mindful of. Some of us try to pretend that we're not imprisoned. No, I'm free to do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want and do whatever I want. I just like being here. Or we make excuses for the uncomfortableness that we feel. We blame other people for the fact that I'm feeling discomfort inside because I'm not expressing my point of view, my voice. I'm not really, I'm very cautious here because I'm not really wanting to say opinion because we have too many opinions floating out there. What I'm talking about is like my inner voice of how I want to live my life. If I make my decision and this is what I want to do, how easily am I influenced by other people's point of view? If I want to go on a diet, I just go on the diet. Unfortunately, today we have the idea of broadcasting everything. And by broadcasting everything, we get everyone's point of view. And then we are affected by everyone's point of view. And then we start asking, well, should I do this? Should I do that? What do you think? What do I think? And here's the other thing that's intriguing about us human beings can be quite overwhelmed, especially when we have too many choices. If you've ever gone into, oh, I don't know, remember when Baskin Robbins, for those of you who remember this, an ice cream store came up with the 21 flavors. When I grew up, we had five: vanilla, chocolate, um, pistachio. Really, there weren't that many. I think vanilla, chocolate, pistachio. I can only think of three. But there really was just like basic. Oh, strawberry was another one. So you had the vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, pistachio, and I know there's a fifth one. I'm not going to remember. Rum, raisin, something like that. But it was very basic. And then Baskin Robbins came out with 21 flavors. And you could just literally be standing there, do I want this? Do I want that? And there's a lot. And now you have so many more flavors to add in the combinations, we get confused. And sometimes we walk out with something we didn't really want, but it was just overwhelming and you just took the easiest thing just to get out of there. That can happen to us as well in our life. We have choices, a lot of choices, and we could be extremely overwhelmed with choices. As a matter of fact, I hope I have this right here. No, I don't. I have this Pantone color book where when I worked with George in the printing company, uh, it's I don't even know how many colors there are. Any color you could think of, it was in there. It was a thick book, and you pull it out, and it's got all these little colors to choose from. And if a customer would come in and they're looking for a color, you hand them this book, they're going to take hours. It might be an exaggeration, but they're going to, oh, this looks nice and this looks, I don't know, this one looks nice and this looks nice. It's too many. So what you do is narrow them down. Well, do you want something like a blue or a red? Are you looking for a yellow or a brown? And once you get them into that little color wheel, then you pull out maybe 5 or 6 different colors, light brown, dark brown. Or are you looking more for a tan or a cream? And try to get them into it only so that you only have 5 choices. I like 5 choices. That usually is very helpful. I remember when I'd have a customer come in, I did a little graphic design for a while, and they'd come in and they'd see what I could do. Well, can you do this here? Can you move that there? Can you move that there? And I learned very quickly not to let them come onto my computer. I would bring them 3 different types of designs and let them choose from that and not let them see all the different ways I can do it because so many choices, you're going to have this and that. And before you know it, you're spending hours on something that could be quite easily done in 10 minutes. So we get overwhelmed with choices. Now, back to the idea of this, that's imprisonment. Since we have so many choices, we're stuck and we can't decide. So, what do? We default back to a habit, which most likely was given to us from somebody else when we were growing up, let's say. That's how an imprisonment can happen without us even being aware of it. Again, not a bad thing. And I'm not saying that our parents tried to imprison us. I'm not saying that. It happens once we pass that age of maturity, once we're out on our own, and then everyone still keeps trying to tell us what to do. Our parents may not do that anymore, but we might marry somebody who emulates our parents that tell us what to do. Or our children take on the idea that they have to teach us because they now know, because everybody who knows you've ever had a teenager, they all know everything now, and adults are stupid because the teenager knows. We've all had that experience. So it could switch that our children now are teaching us what to do. So we can be imprisoned by that aspect as well. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we're raised to learn from other people. We just have to take or recognize the line and take our position and not be under their, I don't want to say dictatorship, that's kind of a hard word as well, but under their influence would be the best, probably the best thing. So, how do we break free from this prison? Well, I indicated already that our thinking is derived by what we see and what we hear. So, the first way to break free is to start thinking differently. Again, this is going to be difficult because we're accustomed to thinking the way we think. You see all the books behind me. I haven't read them all, but I've touched a lot of them. And I mean, I've opened them, I've looked through them. I used to have this thing where I'd open up the book to any page and just read a page just to get an idea of what the book's about. Or there's some books that I use for references. But these books don't all align with me directly. There are some of them I go, I don't really, that's a different way of looking at things. A lot of them are philosophical books, and that's what philosophy is for, to make you think on your own. Some present one kind of philosophy, another one presents a different philosophy. If you know about the history of philosophy, there's the Western and the Eastern type. So the Western, that's Aristotle and Plato and Zoroaster and Hermes Trismegistus. That's the Western kind of thinking. And then the Eastern tradition, that's the Buddhist and Confucius, Lao Tse. These are the different types of philosophy, more philosophy with the spiritual, and the Western philosophy is more logical. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong. They just have 2 different presentations of being. By reading the different types of philosophy, it gives me a well rounded picture of how I want to think and what I'd like to believe in. Same thing with religion. There's so many different types of religions out there. And in my studies, I've discovered there's pretty much going down to the mainframe, they're very similar. Compassion, love, forgiveness, most of them are similar. They talk about the same. There's a thread, the underlying thread that goes through all of them. But I would have never discovered that had I not read the different types of religions that existed out there. So by experiencing things differently, it gives us an opportunity to see things differently. And anytime we see and hear things differently, we think differently. We can change our thinking on that. One of the things I always used to challenge myself with was to read up on or go to a different type of service, like a religious service, just so I can experience this. Now, I'm only using me because this is an easy thing for me to talk about. I've done this. I've gone to a Buddhist temple. I've gone to a Jewish temple. Of course, I've gone to a Catholic temple. I've gone to different variations of Catholicism. I haven't gone to a Mormon temple because it's not a lot in there, but I've attended Mormon services and learned a little bit about the Mormon religion as well. And that helps us think different ways. And the biggest thing here is we don't find other points of view to make them wrong. That's not the idea. We look for other points of view to embrace them and find a value. Oh, I see that there's some value there. I may not embrace it and say, take it on as me, but I find the value in it. That's the number one rule of thumb that I would recommend. When you start embracing other points of view, you are not embracing them to make the other points of view wrong. You're looking for value. We used to talk about this in the classroom as well. Carlos Castaneda had a term. He called it, oh, it just left my brain. Carlos Castaneda's thought was, oh, I'm not going to remember it now, but it's the idea that you could walk amongst your enemy and not be discovered, not as a spy, but you can carry along, have a conversation along with what somebody who you oppose because you understand their point of view. You may not value it, it may not be your position, excuse me, it may not be your position, but you have found value in it and recognize other people have found find controlled folly. Thank you. It was called controlled folly. So the idea is that you could be in, I used to use the illustration, you could be a Democrat, but attend a Republican event and not find any upset, any anger, angst, and not oppose anyone, but literally find the value in what they're saying and still be a Democrat. The same is true. You could be a Republican and go to a Democratic camp and not cause any harm, issue, anything, any upset at all, because you find the value in that. And by finding the value in that, you could see both points of view, and it gives you a more rounded position. So that sometimes you might vote Democratic ways, and sometimes you might vote Republican ways because you see the 2 points of view. That's just an easy one. And again, that's what we would use in the classroom. So this is just the introduction of the prisons that we find ourselves in and a way that we can break free from our prisons. Thank you so much for joining me. I really did appreciate. I love this. Like I said, it's 8 pages, and I just gave the little topics that I can get to on that. I appreciate you guys. And I'm wanting to let you know that something very exciting is about to happen. I'll just say it right now. We are going to have our website up soon. Our website will be up probably by the end of this week. It's been down for a while, so I'm excited that we're about to get it up and going, and I'll probably have more information for you on Friday. So have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you again for joining me, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.